We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to eradicating human slavery, human trafficking, child exploitation, and child sexual abuse material through disrupting networks and applying data technology and advanced analytics and intelligence.
Yes. Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome. Super excited to have us all here today and talking about these much needed discussions about the dark web. What I'll do is I just ask everyone to introduce yourselves. I'll begin. Well, my name is Melissa Moranville, and I am the founder and CEO of DeVille & Associates. And what I do is I develop training programs, training on cryptocurrency, dark web investigations, and open source intelligence investigations, focusing on human trafficking and child exploitation, and helping law enforcement and other criminal justice professionals investigate primarily ICAT cases and sex trafficking cases. So that's just a brief introduction of myself. How about anybody else? Who wants to go next?
I'm Michael. I work at ATII and do data collection and technology development. I currently do and build most of our data sets and some of our tools on the back end. And I assist in investigations and stuff when needed.
Hi, I'm Samuel Curat. I'm a senior investigator at SpyCloud, where I work on the investigations team, primarily in support of our investigations clients, with a focus on U.S. Cyber Command and also in supporting counter CSAM and counter human trafficking investigations.
Okay. Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Farmer. I'm the training lead for the Dark Blue Intelligence Group at CACI, also called CACI. And I've been in this role for 3 years now, almost 3 years. And I train dark web analytics, also train people on how to conduct ocean investigations. And I also previously supported the Army as an ocean analyst, all source intelligence analyst. And I was also certified by the Army Ocean Office as an ocean instructor. So authorities, legal policies for the U.S. government, pretty well versed in that.
Right. All right. And Kevin.
Hello. Kevin Hendricks here. Almost have 2 decades experience in law enforcement. I run the nonprofit, the Ubivis Project, StopDarkWebDrugs.com. I'm recognized as a subject matter expert in the field of dark web related investigations as well as cryptocurrencies. And I, like many in here, also teach the OSINT side, dark web side, and cryptocurrency to law enforcement and FedGov partners across the country and to international partners as well.
All right, great. All right, great. So glad to have you guys here. And I think ATII has brought together an amazing team to kind of dive into the dark web. So just getting us all started, I want to start out with some questions and we'll just kind of jump on board and make this kind of like a discussion panel. So everyone just jump in and just kind of give your 2 cents worth, so to speak. All right. So the first category I'd like to focus on is pedophilia. And pedophilia or minor attracted persons, or what we call MAPs. On the dark web, if anyone ventures out to the dark web, what you'll come to see, especially if you go through the Tor browser, you can actually go in there and go into their search engines, and you can type in topics such as man, boy, love, or girl wiki, or boy wiki. These are actually websites that are on the dark web that basically they lend support to any type of MAPs, or minor attracted persons is what they're calling themselves. And what you'll tend to see on there is it's almost similar to like a revolution in trying to get people on board and supporting them in their endeavors and their goals, et cetera, when it comes to these pedophiles in essence. So let me ask you guys a real quick question. What role do advocacy groups and social media platforms play in monitoring and combating the spread of content related to, say, these maps? What do you think? What is your opinion on that?
Well,
I say
I'll
to help
go
raise
ahead.
awareness.
Yeah.
I say to help raise awareness and help report illegal content where help might be short. Monitoring all those sites and all those posts is kind of hard for any agency. So it kind of helps out in a public space.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Michael. And this is a theme I'm going to come back to today. There are trust and safety teams that are usually very, very small, dedicated individuals working very, very hard to keep their platforms as safe as they can. And usually their daily life is nose and mouth below the waterline, fighting to get above the rising tide of content. And I think they play a very important role, and we need to resource them better than they are today.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What was-
No, yeah, I was going to say that I think in terms of monitoring for specific hashtags or things that they know are going to kind of be that beacon that are going to draw people in is really key. And I believe a great testament to the way that Meta specifically was able to use what resources they had during the height of COVID to flag disinformation about vaccines and disinformation about COVID in general, and then provide a resource for anything that triggered that monitoring of whatever content was out there. And I believe that being able to do that in the space that we are talking about now, where somebody might be trying to send out a flag to other people going, hey, come here for content or like come here for map related type discussions. The social media platforms of X and Facebook and Instagram, and even TikTok, that's really key to recognizing who's putting this content out to begin with, and preventing it from spreading.
Now, do you guys see a difference though, when it comes to moderating these types of platforms compared to the platforms that are on the clear web, such as you're mentioning Meta, compared to those platforms that are on the dark web? Do you see a challenge when it comes to trying to monitor even the platforms that are on the dark web? And what type of challenges do you think is being faced with that?
So the dark web in general is just an anonymous and obfuscated place. You really don't know who you're contacting, where the server's located at. But the dark web community always tries to police itself when it comes to that content, that they'll actually dox or release someone's personally identifiable information on a clear website or on the website itself, so they could get someone's email address, their physical address, their phone number, and contact law enforcement authorities. And in some very rare cases that I've seen, take it up on themselves to interact with that individual and try to get them to out themselves. But when it comes to dark web sites and chat rooms and communities, it's very, very difficult for investigators and advocacy groups to bring them into the light, essentially. So we know exactly who they are.
Yeah, based on the anonymity, right? I mean, it's just so challenging and can be so difficult. One of the things I see with my own work and my own research when it comes to dealing with maps is that they're trying to normalize this man-boy love sites, right? They're trying to normalize minor attracted persons in some format to try to get society, I guess, more on board with them and making it appear as though this is normal. This is normal behavior compared to obviously it being abnormal, right?
Well, it's funny. It's funny Tim said that, because just recently, one of the most, I want to say, popular forums that was on the dark web, Alice in Wonderland, was taken down by the collective Anonymous. They wound up doxing the admin, and they left a message warning everybody that was accessing the site that they had allegedly turned over the servers to law enforcement. And to see a group like Anonymous do that kind of shows how it's kind of a self-regulating ecosystem on the dark web where, you know, it's okay to buy, it's okay to buy drugs, it's okay to buy, well, you know, other things, but it's just like that little area of child exploitation really irks the masses.
You know, you're absolutely correct with that, Kevin. It makes me think back about some content that I'd actually came across on one of the dark web drug marketplaces, to whereas they were actually advertising children for sale in the drug marketplaces under the terms of like pink meth for girls, blue meth for boys, that sort of thing. And what you saw is the entire drug marketplace come up against them and not allow that type of content on their platforms because it was just completely unacceptable. Yeah, so. All
And
right.
that conversation is shifting, you know, even more, Melissa and Kevin, where a lot of the laws on the books reference pedophilia, but a lot of law enforcement investigators and advocacy groups like ATII that are assisting in the investigation will say, look, this is CSAM. It's not pedophilia, it's child sexual abuse material. And so on the one hand, you've got this pull to kind of normalize things. On the other hand, you've got this whole movement and world that we're a part of that's fighting back against that.
Yeah. Definitely, we still have a lot of work to do, don't we? But I think ATII is definitely on board with getting this work taken care of. All right, so let's now talk a little bit about misinformation on the dark web. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was, in your opinion, what technological measures can be employed to identify and curb misinformation on the dark web? What type of misinformation are you seeing? What any type of misleading information is out there in regards to the dark web, and what tech measures can actually be employed to be able to combat this?
Well, there's certain behavioral characteristics that people carry back and forth between the dark web and the clear web. And first, on the misinformation about the dark web, a lot of folks in the public kind of have a misconception of what is actually there. You know, I go through Tor, and now, you know, I'm using the Onion router, and now I can very, very quickly search for murder for hire, or, you know, I can order somebody up delivered to my doorstep in 5 minutes, like ordering a pizza. You know, there's some of these myths and rumors about the darknet as a whole that exist in segments and components if you know where to go. So there's that aspect to it as well. Folks that might, you know, be looking at the image of the iceberg, and, you know, the iceberg, that's the tip of the iceberg is, you know, the index internet, and then below at the very bottom, dark web forums. It's a lot more layered and complicated than all of that. But one thing that we see between the dark web and the clear web is username reuse and password reuse. And folks that create a pseudonymous persona that's, you know, supposed to be anonymous, but it perhaps is not, a lot of times we'll use that on social media, and then we'll use something very, very similar to that on the dark web. And then if you combine password reusage with that and malware info stealer logs like Redline or 5-Hour Stealer or Luma C2 or some of these others, now you can start to kind of stitch those identities together. And we've seen some very, very exciting stuff with dealing with very, very high harm onion sites that have been shut down, but the credentials still pop up on machines that got infected last week. And it's very exciting to be able to use some of that to impact this problem.
Sam, you're absolutely correct. In that even with my own investigations, I've actually been able to do like reverse index searches when it comes to passwords. And you're absolutely correct in that you can actually cross over the passwords with multiple different even email addresses on the clear web and even the dark web. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of misinformation has been on the dark web. But I think that one of the main ones most people might know, I think Pizzagate was also started on the dark web. And yeah, a lot of groups that are known for hate and stuff like that have dark web entities and stuff, and they might sometimes spread stuff for other reasons, like children being sold on Wish or something like that. You're seeing all those, which then might also affect organizations and stuff, because then people are reporting stuff just because of a conspiracy theory or something like that, or misinformation, which then overwhelms you know the people being reported to.
Hmm.
So I think that's one effect right there, misinformation that
Is that something that impacts you, Michael, at ATII, where you have people that are just kind of learning about the work that you do and then send in tips that are really kind of based on these myths and misinformation?
oh no, I've seen people on social media and stuff talking about they reported and stuff. I haven't received any reports personally, no.
Yeah, it's funny, Mike, that you touch on that about Pizzagate, and for most people, and I would say most people in general who aren't in the space like we are, don't really know that Pizzagate's origins really date back to No Limits Fun, which was a dark web, quote unquote, red room site, who the architect was Peter Scully, created one of the most terrible videos that circulates in the CSAM circles that I won't name, because then I don't want someone to see this and then go search for it themselves. But with Pizzagate, you had this alleged video frazzle drip where the stories around it, when they executed a search warrant and Anthony Weiner's laptop, frazzle drip was on there, and there were 12 NYPD officers in the room, and 9 have since killed themselves since they saw this horrible video. And it kind of just builds on, like Sam touched on, the myths that are already underlying about the dark web. Most people that haven't been on it, then they start to hear these things about all this terrible stuff that's on there, and it just builds and builds and builds. And I think it also becomes a deterrent for a lot of people to be like, hey, listen, the term of dark web monitoring is very speculative, because the dark web in mass, there's no single tool that monitors all the different dark nets at the same time, right? It's not possible to do that by design. So the best type of intelligence obviously is human intelligence, and being on there yourselves to see what's maybe being posted or who's talking, about something specific. And I think when you have this compounded misinformation about the dark web with conspiracy theories and things like that circulate themselves on social media, begin to be talking points in certain political arenas as well, you begin to get more actors being more emboldened, because it's like, hey, look, people are afraid of the dark web in general, and now I could do a lot more things and not have to worry about repercussions. And that's in the CSAM space, and that's also in other areas of criminality that exist out there, like you touched on with the different drug marketplaces and fraud marketplaces and things of that nature. So I think it's important that, in terms of misinformation about the dark web, we look at the dark web for really what it is, right? It's just a different medium of communication. It's a different way that data is hosted. It's no different than the internet that we're recording this Zoom on right now, right? It's not a different compartmentalized internet that you need you need to be in on a certain connection to access. And I think once we start to move away from the commercialization that surrounds the dark web and all the commercials out there where the people are in the hoods and the terminal screens and doing all the stuff on the dark web, I think once we break those myths and people begin to realize exactly how accessible the dark web is in general, and really once they start to get on it, I think that will start to scare the actors into being like, hey, people are actually looking at us now, right? Like, people are here, and we have to figure out, we have to change up our OPSEC or what, or just right our ways, right? Drop what we're doing and become right our ways and get arrested, hopefully.
Yeah, Kevin, I've never, put on a hoodie and just use terminal to get on the dark web. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is good. I think you make very valid points there on what people actually think the dark web is, and that is actually a different or an entirely different type internet, right? Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. So let me ask you guys, how can individuals actually improve their media literacy to better recognize misinformation that's actually stemming from the dark web?
While the dark web isn't indexed by one overarching entity like Kevin talked about before, the individuals that are using the dark web are also using the clear web as well. So they're getting their information from political groups, they're getting it from social media, they're getting it from news organizations, and then they're writing it up for themselves to try to put a conspiracy theorist spin on it. So the best thing you can do in order to understand conspiracy campaigns or misinformation that stems from the dark web is to educate yourself about topics that you care about, right? And that means going outside of your own cognitive biases and trying to understand those, because you naturally have this huge inclination to go towards things that make you comfortable, which includes social media platforms, what type of device that you use, what social circles you surround yourself with. So the more that you're open to changing your perception of what you believe may be truth, quote unquote, right, means that you'll start checking other websites that you may be unfamiliar with, because there are a lot of fact-finding websites that are trying to bring unbiased information to the forefront as fact rather than spin it as some type of news segment, essentially. And there's a lot of third-party and government-sponsored fact-checking organizations out there that don't lean left or right or don't heavily support any conspiracy theories that you can. It's a Google away if you know where to look. That's why understanding of OSINT collection analysis in your own job as an investigator is really really important.
Yeah, one thing
That's really a
I'll say one thing I've noticed to look for is be wary of people posting like screenshots of news articles, but the news article, the screenshot they're posting has the date cut off and everything. And you'll notice that a lot of times they have I guess they do inspect element and change the text and they'll put it all on caps, whereas a real news agency usually doesn't do that, but sometimes they might, but not usually. But there's the kind of like factors right there. If you see somebody like trying to tell you a story and posting something like that, then definitely double check it,
Mhm.
just being on the lookout for appeals to a lack of evidence. A lot of times conspiracy theories kind of have this story about how this evidence used to exist and here's how it was dramatically removed. So therefore, if you don't see the evidence, that's proof that this thing actually happened because the evidence was clearly destroyed. So be on the lookout for an appeal to the lack of evidence is always kind of a great way to kind of spot a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole idea of conspiracy theories is to basically fulfill our own biases, right? I think it's what Tim had mentioned earlier, is to fulfill our own biases, and our own biases need to be filled from the anxiety that's created from it and the need to just someone try to argue their point and even be right. And I think that's the whole goal of conspiracy theories, is to fulfill those own biases. And people are going to look for any route or any method that's possible in order to fulfill those biases. But I agree with, I think all of y'all actually said this, is that do your homework. Do your homework, understand exactly what it is that you're looking up, understand the research that's coming, with the topic, whatever that may be. All right, let's see. Good job, guys. Troll culture. So when talking about troll culture, talking about things like video gaming and streaming platforms. So when it comes to troll cultures, let me ask this question. What measures can game developers and platform operators take to detect and prevent the spread of harmful content? We know that there's a lot of self-harm that's happening out there from kids on many different types of platforms, primarily gaming platforms, streaming platforms, and even some chat platforms. So what are some of those measures that can be taken in order to prevent the spread of this harmful content and be able to protect our kids more?
I think that for a generation now that has created their own language, right? Like skibbity, toilet, Riz, no cap, bussin'. Like you have a whole generation on there now that is completely online, and I feel don't have that interactive, don't know how to really interact in person. And I think that has just built this, quite frankly, a disgusting culture of people just saying the worst things on there, and people trying to get like pretty much what I feel the end goal is to have some sort of live stream suicide. Like I feel like that's what they want to do, and the bullying and all this stuff that is part of this troll culture. And I think from a standpoint of where most of it starts, it dates. I shouldn't say date. It sourced back to Discord or Roblox. Like in my experience, it's either Discord or Roblox. I don't know why, but that's how it starts. It always starts on there, and then it just goes forward into private chats or Telegram channels. And I think from a standpoint of what Discord or Roblox could do is the kind of like the Pete Rose eternal ban, right? I can't tell you how many people have created the same, or rather with the same IP address, have created so many accounts after getting banned and banned and banned. They just keep coming back and coming back. And I don't believe it's that hard to do, to ban somebody based on their IP address. Yes, there's workarounds, there's VPNs. Obviously, I'm not naive to that, but just in and of itself, being able to ban an account and then ban everything that's associated with that account, I think that is a good step forward, because unfortunately, from my experience, you see accounts get flagged or banned, and somehow same IP address, even sometimes the same email, they create another account and they're back on and they're doing exactly what they did the first time that got them banned. So I think that that's a proactive measure to help curtail, at a minimum, these actors from coming back online.
Being a lifelong gamer myself, going on 30 plus years, I remember the Call of Duty days when I got online, and you'd hear things like "kill yourself," you're a noob, why you're using that weapon. They would always hurl insults. And one of the things I would always do, if I ever got an especially hateful message, don't get me wrong, like I probably gave just as good as I got when I was a young 16, 17-year-old kid on Xbox Live, is always have reporting measures in place for the individual to report that content. So they're the ones that's going to know the username. They're probably the ones that are going to have the voice recordings. For example, I do stream on Twitch. So if somebody happens to go on there, drops the F word, drops a very bad word, tries to share a link on my chat or in platform, like an actual game chat, to content that is purely objectionable and violent, trying to sway someone to their opinion, I'll find their username. I'll report it to the gaming service, whether that's Xbox, for Microsoft, Sony. Same thing goes for PC, such as Steam and Epic Games. Always have a way for the people using your service to report that content. Because if you don't have that one very simple measure in place, you're not being proactive, taking care of your population. And if it gets truly out of control, truly horrible, then that will be a horrible disservice to your gaming population, as well as your platform. For example, Roblox, like Kevin keeps mentioning, they have individual servers and games that are set up on there. And if one game gets truly atrocious, then nobody will ever go back to that game. And that creator of that one individual game on that server didn't create it for those intentions. He got trolled or she got trolled, and now they lose out on revenue. They lose out on people going there, and they've lost, potential hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a year, depending on how many users go to that server.
I think maybe there should be some kind of like, I know some games and platform stuff have AI that they're working on and stuff, but I think maybe like if your AI is detecting like behavior of a certain person on your platform or in the game, then if that person is detected so often for depending on what the violation is, then that person account, they're not allowed to match with anybody anymore to play online games. And maybe they should have like some kind of verification in place for in order for a minor to play a game that's supposed to be 18 playing with adults, because who knows what adults are on there waiting for a kid to come on there, you know?
Mhm.
I actually apply family safety measures for. I have two children. One's 14, one's 10. So of course my son's over 13, so he has more freedom on gaming platforms in the web than my daughter does, who's 10. But I make sure I truly try as much as I can to abide by those TOS, because just like I said, I remember the early days when nothing was monitored on Xbox Live really, and people had free reign to say and do whatever they want to some extent. I'm glad Microsoft's taken a more proactive stance in that. But I'll always try to implement safety measures at the lowest level for my children and abide by the game service's terms of service. So she can't use Steam. She can't go on Epic because they say individuals under the age of 13 can't use it.
Yeah,
Age
absolutely.
verification and, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sam, you're fine.
Age verification and identity resolution really go hand in hand. And I think as a society, demanding that and requiring that can only make the internet a safer and a better place, a place where you can learn and interact without that kind of Wild West environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's on both aspects. The gaming platforms to take accountability, but also the families to take accountability, just like Tim was saying, to make sure that his kids are following the rules, following what the gaming platforms or the games have actually put into place when it comes to safety protocols. But also, I think it's important for families at home to also set boundaries and set rules that has to be abided by, or else there's consequences if those are not followed. And having that family dynamic at home, that support system, I also think is very important as well. That making it where kids can come and talk to their families about anything that maybe they question or feel uncomfortable, or maybe they did make a mistake. Maybe they did make a wrong choice, but to have that environment at home to feel safe, to be able to come and talk to their loved ones, their caregivers, their parents, or whomever that may be, that, I think I made a mistake, or this is happening, and just having that sense of support, love, and protection at home, I think is also important as well.
My daughter was doxxed on Roblox, so absolutely 100% agree. She came to us instantly, said, "Hey, somebody put my real name on there. What can I do?" And I said, "You know what? There's nothing you can do now. I'll try to contact Roblox to see if we can get it taken down. Probably won't happen. Don't play with them anymore." And to Sam's point about identity verification, that's really a dual-edged sword, right? Because if you put all these age verification measures in place and they start to infringe on a person's, maybe First Amendment rights in the United States, then how far are we really taking it? Right. Then also, some families will totally not abide by those terms of service. I try to do my best, but when it comes to platforms like Facebook, parents will sign their kids up when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old and have them be content creators and start monetizing their children doing this, whatever acts they're doing. And then it becomes a convenient way to contact their children. At an organization I worked with in the past, the only way I could contact my family outside of that organization was with a phone or on Facebook or a social media service. So if I needed to talk to my kids, I would have to give them access to some type of social media service. So that's why there's age-friendly applications for children to use, such as Facebook Messenger for kids. TikTok also has you can pair it up with your own account. I know this is outside of video games, but still, some things that gaming platforms can implement where it's more age-appropriate content.
Well, no, I mean, even with streaming platforms like TikTok, I think it's very important to understand that as well. And you had mentioned parents that create accounts with just their children to be able to get more followers, et cetera. In my personal opinion, I believe that that's putting children at risk of predators. Absolutely. And, once that content's out there, it stays forever out there, regardless if they, disable their account or whatnot. You have to realize that the hundreds of individuals is probably screenshotting the children, who's probably downloading, et cetera, of those images and videos. And I just think that really places children at a further risk.
I agree with that, Melissa, and it's hard because when you're geographically dispersed, I've definitely been in that environment before, Tim, and you use the communications methods that you have available to contact your family. It's the other concern is that when there is a child-friendly platform that's created, it's important that that doesn't become a beacon for attracting folks that are interested
Mhm.
in CSAM content creation and origination. And so it's important that platforms know that when they create that, you're going to have to more heavily resource other people that are going to try to pretend to be kids to get on that environment and platform as well.
Yeah.
And I know that's got to be a really big part of it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, that's going to take us into another topic here in just a minute, and that's AI generated content, right? And using some of those images. But we're not going to get there yet. We're working our way down the list here. So I think we kind of touched on this question, but I just want to close out the troll culture with this question. So what role do parents and educators play in mitigating the risks associated with troll culture and even self-harm content that's online? What do you think could help out with that? I know we kind of touched on it already. Any closing remarks on that?
I'll reiterate what I said before is, just parents being proactive. Melissa, you said it too, and understanding these environments is actually one reason why I choose the game to this day. I know I definitely have wasted more than a few hours on these platforms, but the more I know about the service that they're using and the mediums and environments that they're getting into, the more I can understand when they come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, just so you know, I was on this server and someone came up to me and they started talking to me." And I'm not that parent who goes like, "How can someone come up to talk to you?" Right? Because I know they have an avatar or they were in VR, and I can speak intelligence to them and they trust me when they come up. So make sure that you're communicating with your kids and helping them understand that when we're online, because it's ubiquitous within our culture now. Ultimately, bad things are going to happen to you or around you, and you just have to be aware and talk to people. Because group therapy is a huge thing, and that's what your family unit is, right? Be sure that you're being there for your children, and I wouldn't say so much being their best friend forever, but just knowing that if they ever have a problem, you're going to be there for them or somebody within your family.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Just backtracking on what you said just a second ago, VR as in virtual reality, right? When your children are playing virtual reality games, someone could
Yep.
come up to them. Okay. All right, that's what I was thinking you were meaning. All right. All right, so let's jump into our next topic discussion, which is sextortion and safety. As we know, there's a ton of sextortion that's occurring on our platforms or in our platforms and in society today. So let me ask you guys a quick question. How can individuals protect themselves from becoming a victim of sextortion, particularly on social media platforms?
I think understanding the different elements of these online crimes, like we colloquially dub the Nigerian 419 scams, and how they really evolve and are not just in their one lane of, okay, this is sextortion, this is cryptocurrency pig butchering, this is phishing, this is because from my experience, they're all interrelated. I've seen sextortion cases that started as romance scams. Pretty much, this individual was in a relationship with this person online, had sent them money. They believed that they were eventually going to get married. This victim came to the understanding that this was a romance scam. After 3 months, stopped talking to this person. Then this person came back and said, "Well, you sent me nudes, and now if you don't send me more money, I'm going to disperse these nudes to everybody. I'm going to send it to everybody on your friends list." So it was a romance scam that evolved into sextortion. Or better yet, the people that unknowingly become involved in sextortion scams as money mules because they answered an ad to work from home on Indeed or LinkedIn, or they got a random text saying, "Hey, this is so and so with Glassdoor. Do you want to work for our company?" And then they wind up opening up cryptocurrency accounts or bank accounts, and there's a lot of complexities that are involved there. And I just think telling kids from this come up in standpoint of don't send pictures online, that really is a disservice to really the grand scope that sextortion is. And I think for the most part, Tim touched on having that, and you touched on it as well, Melissa, about having that, the family dynamic of being able to talk to the parents is huge, because as we've seen, kids are, and I say kids, but younger adults as well as adults are committing suicide over sextortion. And, the parents say that they did not know, they didn't know what was going on. And I think being able to, come to the understanding of me, I'm 40 years old. I grew up when we were on AOL Instant Messenger. I grew up with the beginning of
Mhm.
Facebook while I was in college. I witnessed this great big tech birth and as it is today. And I understand that the younger generation now, everything is really online. Like they they prefer to FaceTime over actually talking to you in person, which is I laugh about it, but it's true. And for the most part, I think that sextortion is has kind of become um, this big business. And I think understanding the different elements that are involved with sextortion and understanding from a standpoint of just telling a younger generation don't send photos, right? Like I think like that's such a disingenuous approach. Just like don't send photos. They're going to send photos. Okay,
Mhm.
it is. We live in how many likes can this photo get type of self gratification, right? Like it's if you want to, I laugh because people think that you got to go to Pornhub or OnlyFans to go to amateur porn. It's like, no, you could see it on
Mm.
Instagram, right? Like you can see it right off the bat on Instagram. It's like
Mhm.
there's a line and there's things that toe the line. But understanding that sextortion in and of itself is a money driven um, criminal enterprise. It has very little to do with embarrassing that victim. It has to do with getting the money. And that's why you see they want crypto first. And then if they can't get
Mhm.
crypto, give us gift cards. Oh, you can't get gift cards? Send us Western Union. Oh, you can't do that? Then give us your passwords. Like that's like the last resort is because they want to take over that account to kind of like fester out more and reach out to more friends and
Mhm.
add some obfuscation to who they are. So I think being able to break down that sextortion is not about you being embarrassed. Like their threats are empty. This is about them getting money. Like to understand that that's the driver of it, I think would help really get people to understand and also break down that sextortion has a lot of different elements. It's not just about you sending nudes. It's not there. There's people that are involved unknowingly that are money mules that transfer to the cash apps and the Venmos and things of that nature. So I think that's a very good approach as a preventative measure.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right when you're saying that sextortion is about the money. It's definitely about money, and there's definitely organized crime rings that are actually behind a lot of major sextortion cases, right? And we know that to be true. But I think that they use the kids' embarrassment, that peer pressure of wanting to be wanted, needed, liked in that age category of that young teenage years. They're using that as a tool as well as just the pressure of embarrassment and asking for, in the cases that I had helped assisted on within investigating these was they were asking for payment on like Cash App, right? PayPal, Cash App, that sort of thing. And yeah, and so it was really based on using the kids' vulnerabilities for money to make a profit.
I think one thing people can do to help protect themselves is make sure their privacy settings are good. A lot of platforms have privacy settings where you can make sure your profile isn't indexed in Google and stuff like that, and that people can't search you by your phone number. The harder you make it for somebody to find you, the harder it'll be for somebody to target you because they won't be able to find you. It's easy.
No, that's a really good point. Absolutely. I think I think almost all social media platforms has that capability, right? To where you can actually set it to where your profiles will not be public, it cannot be indexed, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in continuing this discussion on sextortion and safety, what steps should victims of sextortion take to report and handle the situation safely? What should these kids do? If they are a victim of sextortion, what should they do and what shouldn't they do?
Well, there's been some pretty high profile cases where parents and children have gone to the platform and it was either early in this sextortion epidemic, um, uh, and the platform didn't know what to do, didn't take it down, kept requesting verification, things like that. Uh, those actions of going to the platform, involving law enforcement, and getting the parents involved are great places to start because people are getting a lot more, unfortunately, aware of what needs to happen to take this content down in the cases when it's posted on the platform.
Also, one thing you can do is file a DMCA complaint, Digital Media Copyright Association, or I can't remember what the A is, but you have your own personal rights to your appearance and your surroundings where you're at, especially if it's your property. So if you ever take a picture of yourself inside of your own room and it's ever posted online and a search engine makes it available, or it goes to a dating platform, or it goes on like this, for example, Discord absolutely doesn't allow pornography of any kind on there. Like it's actually in their terms of service. So if you report pornography at all on there, they're going to investigate that server and take it down, or find those messages and delete them and ban the users. So a DMCA, if you can do that, really helps as well. Google search engines respond pretty readily to those. They always have a backlog, and the search engines themselves and these indexing services for public records, you can go out there and remove your information as well if you request it. As far as being proactive, if somebody ever requests money from you that you don't know, don't send it and immediately get somebody else involved, because I've seen that happen so many times where an investigator will reach out to me, a law enforcement officer, and say, "Hey, I have a victim who sent point like 2 micro Bitcoin to someone, which is the 2,000ths of a Bitcoin." And they want to know how they can get that back because they know these photos, if they're released, wouldn't hurt their image. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, it's a blockchain. Unless you can find that person's wallet and where it's located at, there's no way you can ever recover that Bitcoin. So asset recovery becomes paramount, and also knowledge on the law enforcement's part to educate their citizens and the populace around them, right? Talking to people and saying, hey, just so you know, these crimes are on the rise online, so be on the lookout for these indicators.
Yeah, absolutely. Which,
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're fine, Mike.
I will say one thing victims can do if somebody is being sextorted with their nudes is NICMIC has the take it down service. So if you submit the photo that they're trying to blackmail you with, and you submit it to take it down, then they'll have a hash of that image, and they'll be able to detect it across platforms that use NICMIC system for the photo DNA.
That's an excellent recommendation. Mentioning NetMec and their take it down. Absolutely. So you had mentioned a second ago, Tim, about cryptocurrency. So that kind of takes us into our next category. Cryptocurrency as a facilitator to CSAM and trafficking. So let me ask, in your opinions, how has cryptocurrency revolutionized the way that CSAM and human trafficking operations are funded and executed? I know it's a broad question, but
Kind of does away with the banking requirements needed to send money from one place to another. You can instantly, no identification required. Make as many wallets as you want.
absolutely. I know that when I'm on the dark web and I'm investigating any type of CSAM or child exploitation cases, and it is actually connected with cryptocurrency, you'll actually see that on the marketplaces, or you'll see cryptocurrency as a form of payment on a lot of these CSAM sites as well, in making that payment, because one, they feel that cryptocurrency is anonymous, and they also feel that the majority of cryptocurrencies cannot be traced and tracked. But we can actually, there are lots of different ways in which we can actually trace and track cryptocurrency, which I think is, which can be beneficial, yet challenging, but also beneficial. But it definitely has revolutionized it in a form of anonymity, and making it very challenging to be able to trace and track any type of funding payments, monetary payments that's being paid for CSAM content, compared to if they were, using their debit cards or something else that follows KYC or AML laws and regulations.
I think usually these are a subset of the overall criminal operations that this entity is probably running. So they'll probably want to consolidate those into one wallet over time, because you have all these Bitcoin addresses, these Ethereum addresses, Solana, whatever cryptocurrency they're using.
Mhm.
Eventually, ultimately, they'll probably want to consolidate that to send it to an exchange somewhere, so they can actually get it in a currency they can use in their government, wherever it's located at, anywhere in the world. And then also, when it comes to revolutionizing the way that CSAM and human trafficking operations are conducted, it's transcending across international boundaries, right? Before, if you had a treasury working with you, or their financial organization for the government, you could get investigators involved from those. But now that we have wallets, and blockchains that go across international boundaries, being more open and transparent about what addresses are of paramount, or are very important for that organization to start tracking, and attributing them to the correct thing, because incorrect attribution can probably ruin a person's life. But attributing to the right person or organization is a paramount as well.
Yeah.
There's an interesting aspect to this where use of cryptocurrency, almost at having this mystique of anonymity, is helpful to investigators because cryptocurrency is not protected by the Bank Secrecy Act. So there's no financial institution requirement to keep this thing secure. And a blockchain public ledger is out there. So there are tools and monitoring that's capable of working with those data sets. I'd say the less positive side is there's a whole industry of live stream abuse where consumers from the US and from Western Europe and from Canada are paying via cryptocurrency when there is live stream child sexual abuse happening in an area, maybe in Southeast Asia, where the ability to kind of crack down on that is not as available, is not as heavily resourced, and so that there was a time where International Justice Mission, it was focusing their entire counter CSAM mission in like enabling and helping certain municipalities in Southeast Asia kind of combat that problem. It's definitely challenging and a big problem set.
Yeah, definitely. The live streaming and paying in the form of using cryptocurrency to be able to join in on that live stream. We're definitely seeing many challenges with that. As I'm speaking, I'm thinking of Telegram in particular, right? We know that Telegram even has its own ton token when it comes to crypto that they can actually use in order to make payment using a ton wallet address to be able to stream this live content through a Telegram channel. And I think how many participants can they have at one given time on a streaming? Does anyone remember? Is it 1,000 or 2,000 at one given moment? Within that, I know the chats are like 100,000, right? But the live streaming is quite a smaller amount, I believe. Or unless you were talking about eventually they would need to consolidate. I think Tim had mentioned that initially they'll need to consolidate the cryptocurrency and moving it off of the blockchains, regardless of what crypto they're actually using. But one of the challenges that we've actually been running into is now that they're jumping chains, they're using maybe something similar to like MetaMask, to where they're actually able to jump chains now. Say they were, using a Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden you're seeing it come to like a screeching halt within the blockchain, and then they're jumping chains, and you don't even know what chain they've actually jumped to, unless you can get your hands on their device, right? And go into MetaMask, and if they were using MetaMask, to try to find out what chain they actually jumped to. That's also another challenge when it comes to CSAM and crypto.
Yeah, and chain hopping, like you said, and services out there that are dedicated to swaps, like fixed float, change now, changely. But I think for the most part, what most people in general don't understand about crypto is I could have 10,000 Bitcoin right now in my wallet. I can't go to Burger King and buy a Whopper with it. So there's got to be some avenue for me to be able to convert that into some fiat that I can use. And right now, the tradecraft that's being exhibited is using these digital wallet services that now support cryptos like Cash App, where they're liquidating their funds via that service and the financial institutions and instruments of payment that are linked to that service. So there's still that, the real world money aspect of it. And that is really where the focus is on for law enforcement, as well as the financial institutions, the private sector, to be able to monitor that. And, Cash App does a lot of suspicious activity reporting to law enforcement. Same things with banks. Like if all of a sudden this influx of money is coming in for an account where this individual has not really done any deposits in a while, and then all of a sudden they're doing something like structuring where they're putting in increments of payments to avoid cash transaction receipts and things of that nature. There's still that old school, lack of a better term, old school investigative avenue there. And for these CSAM driven forums and these services that require some sort of pay to play aspect of it, you also see the scammers taking advantage of that. And you see the vigilante type aspect where they'll set up a honeypot service. And honeypot, for those who don't know the term, it's something to draw in your targets per se, and to be like, hey, I'm advertising, I have this CSAM available, often trying to ride on the coattails of a CSAM service that's successful. They'll be like, hey, well, I'm offering this and this, that, and the other thing. And, to get membership, you have to pay a fee, and people will pay it. And then they're pocketing the money. And then they're also reporting these people anonymously to law enforcement. And it's pretty funny, because you figured no one's going to go to law enforcement to say, hey, I got scammed. I wanted to join this CSAM forum, and they never built my profile.
They took my money.
Yeah, I don't. It's like when somebody gets robbed trying to buy drugs, right? They're not really
Right.
they're not really gonna go, hey, I was trying to buy these drugs from this guy, and they pull out a gun and rob me. I mean, for the most
Right.
part, they're not going to do that. But still, I think that it creates also an avenue for people to be profiteers off of the dark websites that are out there now that require you to either share or pay. And right off the bat, it's like, no, pay only, and people will pay it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, cryptocurrency has definitely created a challenge when it comes to investigating, not just CSAM, but also, drug trafficking, right? Drug activities, whatever that may be. It's definitely creating a challenge. In our next category, I'd like to now evolve over into, we've already touched on this a little bit, but this may be our last topic, because this is a pretty good topic that we all like to tend to talk about, and that's AI generated content, right? Particularly with this discussion, AI generated CSAM content. So let me ask you guys, how can AI technology be used to detect and prevent the creation and distribution of AI generated CSAM? Can we actually use it to detect and prevent AI generated CSAM?
Well, since there's AI already built to analyze a human body for medical reasons, they should be able to analyze a photo of a human and be able to tell by the biology of his skin and stuff if it's a real human or not, if it's in the photo. If it can read skin through a X-ray or something, or whatever, for a doctor, it should be able to read skin in a photo.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good way, maybe, to help combat and detect it.
What are some other challenges that you guys see when it comes to AI generated CSAM content?
Well, I think a site like undress.ai, right? Like, in and of itself, it's to the lay observer, it's a harmless site, right? Like a joke site. Like, why, putting a photo in there and it undresses it. But again, you could put photos of children in there and it will undress them. So it's along the lines of the quote from Jurassic Park. you were so obsessed with whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think whether or not you should, right? And I think that transcends into like, why is this site online, right? Like, why does this site exist? And in the most part, if it's not policing itself, then it should be up to the hosting services or whoever provides them, like Cloudflare, to take them down, right? Like we saw with Cloudflare when they yanked the hosting of 8chan after the
Mhm.
Christchurch, New Zealand shooting. There should be this all hands on deck for these AI, these seemingly innocuous AI sites, or better yet, sites where it's dedicated to art, like DaVinci.ai, where if somebody's typing in a specific string of what it wants to create, like child in whatever, like automatically bells and whistles going off, like, whoa, what is this person trying to create here? Things of that nature. I think that is a kind of in terms of what I feel is one of the most simplistic and probably the most common sense approach to it.
If you look at just the AI from the large language model, just ChatGPT 4, we've already surpassed some of that self-regulation where, it used to be in the first version 6 months ago, you would put in, it would say, oh, well, I can't give you those instructions, or I can't do that because that would be unethical. And it says, okay, well, create this hypothetical scenario where I'm trying to combat it and now explain, how it would get done. And then boom, you've got around it. So we've already made some improvements in that. And I think AI is we need to require that level of self-regulation, unless we really want to change, repeal Section 230, CDA Section 230. So I mean, that's kind of the axe that's hanging over the industry's head, is that if you don't self-regulate, eventually Congress and other municipalities, other societies are going to do that.
Yeah, I think watching like monitoring where the models come from, like there's hubs that have all kinds of like models that's like you can use for various purposes, like creating a comic book example or something like that. But like if you like go to your settings and like be sure like that you click like you're an adult or whatever, because like I'll ask you, and so then you can find a lot of models that might interest people in investigating the creator more. You might be able to find their username to see what else they're making across the web. Maybe if there's advertising the model there, but you find somewhere else that they're using that model to produce something that was in that advertising image they showed for that model, then you have a good lead on the person right there.
Mhm.
I think in terms of what AI can also do from a back end standpoint, like how much AI has done for preventing fraud, with these online payment services, being able to detect anomalous events of, okay, this IP address comes back as a VPN, they're using a credit card that comes back from this zip code, and they're having it shipped somewhere else, right? Like right off the bat, it's detecting the anomalous events there and flagging that payment from being processed. Using AI in that same respect of accounts on social media or other platforms where there could be anomalous events in and of itself. The IP is out of Nigeria. They're portraying themselves as being a young female, and then they're also seeing, wait, there's multiple accounts attributed to this IP address across our platform, right? There's multiple accounts that are coming back to this IP address, and they're all females, and it looks like they're kind of generally built the same. Like there's 2 or 3 posts, but they're sending out friend requests to thousands of people, pending thousands of friend requests there. Like, and Meta, for example, just did a phenomenal campaign against shutting down accounts that were linked to sextortion, where they were doing just that, finding those commonalities there. So I think having those primers in with AI to detect, those accounts being linked to sextortion scams or romance scams, is one of the ways where AI can, be used for good, where they can essentially have that programmed in to help proactively shut down those accounts before they start sextorting or being involved in romance scams or investment fraud or all the different myriad of fraudulent activity.
Are you speaking of like a risk assessment, Kevin? Is it like risk assessment or?
Yes, more or less. I in the breath of AI, like we were sitting there saying like AI bad,
Yeah, I
but
like that.
in terms of what AI can do on the reverse side of like
Yeah.
this is what it's already being implemented for, and how it could be further reaching as a means to help prevent, CSAM production, because again the sextortion, targeting children, getting them to produce whether or not child pornography, or getting them to sexually abuse themselves with objects or self-harm, being able to shut it down that way before it even happens.
I like
Yeah,
that.
and
Absolutely.
a lot of models that do like images and videos, AI models, they have built-in invisible watermarks. So that should be like 2 checks right there. You should be able to check for that watermark, see if it's AI generated, and also check for the age of the person in the video, because there are already age detection AIs that exist. So, that's one thing right there. They can do those 2 checks on an image and see right there if it's AI generated possible CSAM, because there are already models that detect age, nudity, AI. So the technology already exists.
So in comparison to using AI to generate bad content, AI can also be used to be proactive.
Yep.
And absolutely. Hey, Tim, isn't there with Dark Blue, isn't there something Dark Blue just implemented for AI as well?
Yeah, we just recently implemented a large language model. We just posted about it on our social media services. It's from Anthropic. It's Claude AI that we implemented, so it's able to go through our entire platform. And while there were some hurdles that our technology team had to overcome for some of those prompts, because it actually went against the model to say, "Hey, this is a CSAM website. Tell me what you can find." So it was interesting seeing our technology team are just brilliant at their job, overcome those hurdles. It's now released for everybody to view, so you can go on there if there's a specific individual you can identify, like an email, a phone number, or something. You can go on there and ask the LLM to say, "Hey, where do you see this elsewhere? Has it been posted? Like, can you analyze this and generate a report for me?" And it's all within our data. It doesn't actively go out and collect. We've already collected it, but yeah, we absolutely have that available. So that's one element of AI supporting CSAM investigations, as well as a myriad of other investigations too, on the criminal and civil side.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I think we're out of time. I don't think we're going to have time to go into our last topic, which is discussing anonymized chat rooms like Telegram or Mastodon. I think we're probably way over our time limit. I'm not sure if Jennifer's still listening. But I would like to thank each of you for joining us or joining me with today's Dark Blue chat for ATII. And thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for all the work that you do in this realm. It's definitely needed. And as you guys know, there's not enough of us that go around that work in this area. But I do want to thank each of you for all the work that you do in helping in this area. Let's see here.
Thank you, Melissa.